All right, chapter 24, we are going to talk about substance abuse. So, performance enhancing drugs are the most common form of substance abuse in athletics. It's a drug designed to improve performance. It's also known as doping. So, doping is when you administer or use a substance in any form that's alien to the body or a physiological substance in abnormal amounts and with abnormal methods by healthy persons, with the exclusive aim of attaining an artificial and unfair increase in performance in sports. Doping at every level is illegal in every single level of competition of sports. Now, there's different types of substances that can be abused, and we're going to go through most of them. So, stimulants, this is to increase alertness, reduce fatigue, increase competitiveness and hostility. Most of the time, the biggest stimulant that we see is caffeine. And then we have amphetamines. So, amphetamines are considered mood altering drugs. Um, they're extremely potent and dangerous. They can be injected, inhaled, or taken as tablets. And it ranges from a wide variety of drugs. So it can be as simple as the drugs that are prescribed for ADHD. So you have Adderall, Ritalin, etc. But they also include meth and cocaine. So, and then you can kind of see this with the physiological reaction to it. So high doses can cause pupil dilation, increased blood pressure, hyperreflexia, and hyperthermia. Um, Athletes think that it promotes quickness and endurance, delayed fatigue, and increased confidence. It does have an association with increased risk of injury, exhaustion, and circulatory collapse. Understanding that most drugs, the thing that you have to watch out for with athletes is that the time it takes to feel the effects of a drug can oftentimes mimic the time it takes to fall from that drug. And so this is where we talk about that exhaustion and circulatory collapse. You will find that the time it takes to reach that euphoria and that increased alertness will often be followed by a rapid fall of fatigue and exhaustion, and they'll just basically collapse on you once that drug wears off. All right, so talking about ADHD medicine. So there are amphetamines such as Ritalin, Adderall, and Dexedrine. These are regulated by the NCAA because they are common to treat ADHD and ADD, and that's a very common illness to have across the general public and athletes. It is a stimulant that decreases that distractibility and facilitates focus, which is why you commonly see it in academics. However, you can abuse it because they know that it improves your attention. They might do it for partying to just keep them up. It reduces that hyperactivity, so they're able to again focus more and then improve their grades. Common signs and symptoms of an increased ADHD medicine is shakiness, rapid speech or movement, difficulty sitting still or concentrating, a lack of appetite, sleep disturbance, and irritability. All right, caffeine, and I kind of touched on this during the nutrition chapter. So, caffeine is found in coffee, tea, and soda. It is a stimulant, a diuretic, and it can stimulate gastric secretion. In moderation, it will cause wakefulness and mental alertness. That's why most people who don't drink coffee regularly can have 1 cup of coffee every now and again and feel the effects pretty rapidly. However, large amounts of caffeine can cause elevated blood pressure, changes in your heart rate, increased plasma levels of epinephrine, norepinephrine, and renin, and it impacts your coordination, sleep, mood, behavior, thinking processes. And then also remember that caffeine can caffeine is banned by the NCAA, and you only need about 500 milligrams of caffeine in order to test positive, which is about 1.5 to 2 bangs, or other energy drinks. And so understanding how much caffeine you have, especially if you mix those together, if you're drinking coffee in the morning and then an energy drink or a soda, that is all adding up throughout the day. And then also understanding that the more caffeine you drink with those darker liquids like coffee and tea and soda, you're also dehydrating yourself. It is recommended that you drink the same amount of water extra for every ounce of um, coffee or tea or soda that you have. All right, continuing on. So obviously, if you're a habitual user for caffeine, then you start to um, you'll learn that it takes more. You basically gain a tolerance to it, and so then it takes more to feel those effects. You will also go through withdrawal if you do cut your caffeine intake, which can be a headache, drowsiness, lethargy, rhinorrhea, irritability, nervousness, depression, and a loss of interest in work. Um, and then also understand that is a diuretic, so hydration is important as and keeping your hydration is important when you are taking caffeine. So then you have narcotic analgesic drugs. This is from derived from opium or synthetic opiates. It's morphine and codeine. This helps for pain management. Um, Most of the time for moderate or severe pain management. Obviously, there's a risk of physical or psychological dependency on pain meds. Just in health in general, healthcare in general, we're taught about chronic pain, especially chronic low back pain. There's evidence to suggest that low back pain is the newer hot topic in most health professions because there is a heavy link of chronic low back pain and substance abuse, especially in these analgesic drugs. And then you have beta blockers. So this is primarily used for hypertension and heart disease. However, it's used in sports that require steadiness. It relaxes your blood vessels, slows your heart rate, and decreases heart cardiac output. And then we go into steroids. So we have synthetic steroids. It does resemble sex hormones or testosterone. It has an androgenic effect, so growth, development, and maintenance of reproductive tissues, masculinization. The anabolic effect is the protein synthesis, which increases your muscle mass and weight, and then general growth and bone maturation. And so you're taking the anabolic steroids to hopefully maximize this effect, not normally taken for the androgenic effect. It can have detrimental and irreversible effects, causing major threats to your health, and it's obviously seen in sports that involve strength and power. You will see it in prepubescent boys. It does decrease in ultimate height, cessation of long bone growth, causes acne, hirsutism, and gynecomastia. And then it can be ingested by females as well. And then obviously steroid abuse may lead to liver and prostate cancer and obviously heart disease. All right, human growth hormone. This is produced by your anterior pituitary gland and released into your circulatory system. And the amount that is produced, it varies with your age. It results in increased muscle mass, skin thickness, connective tissues, and muscle, organ, and weight. Muscle and organ weight. It can produce lax muscle and ligaments during periods of growth and alter bone growth. It also can cause premature closing of growth plates. It can result in diabetes, cardiovascular disease, goiter, menstrual disorders, decreased sexual desires, and impotence. There is no proof that increased HGH and weight training will contribute to strength and muscle hypertrophy. Blood reinjections, or this is the blood doping. It's thought to increase endurance, acclimatization, and altitude, making increased metabolic demands for the body, which requires increased blood volume and red blood cells. It can replicate a physiological response by removing 900 milliliters of blood and reinfusing it after 6 weeks. This allows time to replenish your blood supply. It can significantly improve performance. It is unethical. It is also proven to be dangerous. The risk involved is allergic reactions, kidney damage, fever, jaundice, infectious disease, and blood overload. All right, recreational substance abuse among athletes. This is normally caused because student athletes are experimenting with recreational substances. They're used for escaping reality, or to be a part of the group. That's peer pressure. They are abused and habit forming very easily, very quickly on, once you start doing them. These are drugs that are used for non-medical reasoning, just to get high, altering your mood or behavior. The most common substance abuse is alcohol. And then we get into the psychological and physical dependence. So psychological dependence is a drive to repeat the ingestion to produce pleasure or avoid discomfort, whereas the physiological dependence is the tolerance level that increases the more you use it. Understanding that withdrawal is an unpleasant physiological reaction, not psychological reaction. Okay, so drug testing in athletics. The NCAA and U.S. Olympic Committee have established banned substance list and testing programs. These lists are reviewed annually and are updated annually. Banned substance lists have not been set at the high school level, but they are set at the NCAA level and professional level. It is left up to the individual schools on a banned substance list at the high school level and whether or not they will drug test. There are guidelines available for programs that want to institute a drug testing program. There are multiple steps to performing a drug test. So an athlete must urinate into 2 separate specimen bottles labeled A and B. Then you submit that to an official NCAA or USADA testing lab. Specimen A is used for both screening and confirmation tests, and then specimen B is only used if they need a reconfirmation for a positive test. Athletes are then notified and can result in sanctions depending on if they have a positive test. It's important to understand that nutritional and dietary supplements contain banned substances. This is why it's very important to reach out to a dietitian and before you start taking supplements. It is up to your own liability if you start taking a supplement and then are dinged positive for a drug test. It's important to read labels and then also be aware of what entities or companies are have labels on those supplements to say that they're FDA approved or etc. The FDA does not regulate the supplement industry, which basically means that the safety of that supplement cannot be guaranteed. And that impure substances will lead to a positive NCAA drug test, and so it is at your own risk. All athletes should contact the athletic trainer, dietitian, nutritionist, or physician for any information on supplementation, and then you should also be aware of any supplementations that the athlete is taking.